With the release of Dial of Destiny, it's once again time to put our ranking caps on and see just where the pieces of this franchise lie. And what a better time to do it with all the sane, intelligent, reasonable discourse going on right now over the latest film. Psych! It's a steaming dumpster pile of garbage out there. Seriously, you can't scroll 2 articles or YouTube videos without finding some troll who has spent longer time than it took for the Titanic to sink to explain with every fiber of their being why this movie is the absolute shits. Which seems like such an enormous waste of energy and time, but they need to get their clicks somewhere, I guess, and hate is in. Spoiler alert though, you won't find any of that here because I don't hate any of these indie films. I have my criticisms, but not a single one is outright turd like the internet would have you believe. These movies are, at worst, okay, and at best, an absolute classic. But let's not waste any more time. Let's dive right into this treasure trove of a film franchise. Dropping in at number 5 is the latest in the series, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I know I just said there'd be no hating, and here the new movie is in dead last, but even with 5 great films, one of them has to come in last. And while it's still an enjoyable final romp in this film franchise, this is the one that could have used the most tinkering in the editing room. It's entirely too long. It clocks in at a beefy 2 hours and 34 minutes. That's just too long for a series that was a throwback to Saturday adventure serials. You could cut out the entire middle section of this movie and not lose a single thing. It's baffling to me that no one said instead of Indy having to find a thing to find the thing, they just instead find the thing. Boom, we've saved 20 minutes and now we've got a movie. Though the opening scene is peak Indiana Jones, and once you get used to his de-aged face, it's an absolute joy, though I am still staunchly against the de-aging process. The supporting characters are fine. They aren't peak Indiana Jones, but they're also not the absolute shits like the internet would have you believe. Waller-Bridge is having an arc in this movie that is jaded and cynical and has her helping her colleagues would have you believing she's the second coming of the Antichrist, stealing all the glory from Indy, making him look pathetic, and that couldn't be farther from the truth. It's so weird how their biggest annoyance from her is how OP they think she is, but say nothing of other strong female characters in this franchise that have gotten one over on Indiana Jones and or saved his life at times in this franchise. Have we forgotten about How We Met Marion? She punched the motherfucker right in the face. Anyway, we could write a whole dissertation on this film, which we're not trying to do, obviously. We got a whole franchise to get through. It's definitely the worst of the bunch, but that doesn't say much when they're all of such high caliber. If you've been on the fence because of the internet, ignore it and go see it for yourself. After all, no one's a better judge of your tastes than you. At number 4 is Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, a movie that has seriously grown on me as I've aged. It came out when I was in college and I was very on the fence about it then. Loving the opening scene, the chase through the college, and lots of the globe-trotting, but absolutely hating Shia swinging on the ropes and actually seeing the spaceship take off at the end. And that was enough for me to write the entire movie off, and that was stupid of me. Sure, those things still bother me today, but they are 2 tiny portions of a movie that is a hell of a lot of fun, and in no way does it diminish the movie anymore. I realize I have to stop letting these nitpicks ruin what was otherwise a great movie, and there's a lot to love about this movie. It has one of the best openings to reintroduce Indiana Jones. Seriously, Spielberg is a master craftsman at blocking. I even love what has been dubbed nuking of the fridge. I never understood people's hate of it. Yes, in reality, he'd be dead 100 times over, but is it any more stretching your believability than him diving out of a plane with a boat parachute and temple and living? I don't think so. These movies have always been about larger than life, you'd be dead spectacle, and that image of Indy coming out of the fridge and seeing the fallout of the nuke is such an insanely awesome visual. This movie definitely holds up so much better than I thought it would, and if it was to be the end, it was a much worthier final entry than I ever gave it credit for. Number 3 is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. I shudder to think what this last Indy movie would have been like if crybabies didn't bitch and moan so much about Temple. Now, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love this movie, but it is easily the safest of the original trilogy, becoming more of a buddy adventure movie than the previous 2. Not that that's a bad thing. Landing Sean Connery to play Indy's dad was an inspired choice, and their interplay and relationship helps sell this final installment as a role-licking adventure of an archaeologist that learns there is more to life than the relics he's in search of. It's also the most slapsticky of all the films, with Indy donning a fake Scottish accent, Sean Connery's bumbling performance, and Marcus the clown Brody juxtaposing the hard-hitting action, cementing this as one of the best dad movies around. But seriously, did I mention how slapsticky it is? Like Indiana Jones meets Hitler and Hitler signs his book for him. This movie is very silly. Number two is Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Now, this was hard. I love this and Raiders so much and constantly go back and forth on which one is my favorite. So ask me again in a week and this could switch. Temple, though, is the standard bearer for how to ramp up the insanity for a sequel while staying true to the adventure roots of the franchise. Its inventive ways to subvert and surprise you with its tropes make this one of the best sequels around, even if it is a prequel. How do you top the Boulder opening of Raiders? You don't. You open with a dance number in a Shanghai club that reveals a completely different Indiana Jones than we've seen. Suave, James Bond-like, and totally in it for the money. How do you top the Ark of the Covenant? You don't. You use a completely different religion and explore the theological mysticism that inhabits Indy's world. How do you top snakes? Bugs. How do you top Nazis? A thuggy cult that rips your beating heart out and burns you alive. The list goes on and on. This movie blew my mind when I saw it as a kid, and I continue to love every second of it as I get older, and find more and more to appreciate with each viewing. It's peak 80s. Pulse-pounding action with dark, violent spectacle, and a thunderously adventurous soundtrack backed by the king, John Williams. I guess Back to the Future was right when it said, I guess you guys aren't ready for that yet, but your kids are gonna love it. Number one is Raiders of the Lost Ark. And could it really be any other? Completely changing the name of action when it was released, this film still to this day is unlike anything else we've seen. So many movies have tried to emulate it and failed. So many adventure series have gotten their roots from this film. This movie changed a generation. It influences a generations still to this day. It is without a doubt the greatest action-adventure film of all time. From Indy's perfect introduction to his globe-trotting adventure in a race against time to thwart the Nazis from securing the Ark of the Covenant, this is some of the best fun you'll ever have at the movies. Adventurous, action-packed, funny, exciting, daring, dark. I love how these movies refuse to play it safe, giving us an ending that is sure to terrify any younger viewer for decades to come. Harrison Ford cemented himself as one of the best to ever do it with this film. Star Wars may be the bigger property, but Harrison has never been better than Indiana Jones. He made that character come to life in a way that no one else ever could. He's charming, roguish, weathered, vulnerable, an everyman for the ages. My favorite trope in action is the everyman who just gets the ever-living shit kicked out of them the entire movie, but just won't quit. Indy cemented it, and Ethan Hunt keeps it alive today. There isn't a frame wasted in this film, and every second propels you to the next set piece. It doesn't waste a second, and before you have a second to breathe, it's over, and you realize you just witnessed the greatest action hero of all time. Even if he didn't really have to do anything the entire movie, and it still would have played out exactly the same. But Indy isn't a man to sit on the sidelines. He's a man of action, goddammit. And that's my list. Yes, it's in reverse order. Obviously, as you can tell, I am a huge fan of this franchise. Indy is my favorite film series. He's my favorite film character. I have the tattoos of the Idol from Raiders, the Shankara stones from Temple, and I'm planning to get the Holy Grail and Crystal Skull sometime later this year. I'm going to give Dial a few years to sit with me before I decide to ink that on me, but I have a lot of reverence for this series and this character, and when all is said and done, whether Dial of Destiny recoups its bloated budget or not, I just thank Harrison Ford and everyone for the ride. It's been an adventure of a lifetime. Until next time, I'll see you at the movies.